I just became the very first human to win a game of chess with what might easily be the most complicated gambit in existence, and this is something that's completely brand new, and yesterday I actually happened to be doing a Twitch stream where I was able to use this and defeat my opponent with some absolutely incredible prep. So I'm going to be sharing this opening idea with you, and then I'm going to be sharing the lecture that I gave immediately following this game on Twitch, because it's so complicated that I kind of didn't know how to make an actual direct YouTube video about this, and I thought it would be more interesting to kind of test my chat audience and see, can anybody even come up with the kinds of moves that your opponents will be forced to face if they do enter into this opening. And this is something that you can play in the MacLeod attack. So let me just show you how we get to the starting position, and then we're going to head over to Twitch for Past Jonathan, and he's going to teach you the lesson on this opening. Now, this is something that comes out of the MacLeod attack. This is an e4, e5, c3 opening. This is not a particularly common opening, but you obviously have this idea that you're going to be playing pawn to d4, and d5 is the most critical line. We'll get into some other stuff later, but now you have this idea of playing this incredibly rare move, queen to a4, and if the opponent plays bishop to d7, which is the most common move, you can put your queen back on b3, and because you've provoked the bishop to come out to d7, you're suddenly attacking two of these pawns. And now here there are two moves that we're going to be analyzing in the video upcoming. D takes e4 is actually the most common move, but there's a lot of traps involved with this one that we'll get into. But then there is the move that my opponent played in this game, and it's bishop to c6. Black takes the time to try to defend both of these pawns, and here is where I got to use my novelty, because if you look in the database, nobody has ever actually played the top computer move, which you can see right here, d4, and the computer will say that you have equalized. So this is the move that I played against my opponent, and I'll get into kind of the explanation when we get into the video, but I do want to mention that after e takes d4, which is what I think a lot of people would play, you can take back, and this is a gambit because you are offering this e4 pawn, and in fact, black should be taking this pawn. However, in the game that I played against my opponent, unfortunately, the opponent played knight to f6, and then I played e5, and in the future, I'm going to be able to play moves like f4, f5, f6, and this is exactly what happened in our game. So without getting into this, I will be posting this entire game. You can see that eventually I got all of these moves in, and then I just have a winning attack. All of these games are being posted over on the Vampire Chicken channel, so make sure you're subscribed to my second channel. There's 7 videos in this series that's all about if I do lose a game, I'm going to have to post this drama video that I really don't want to post. If you do want to make sure that you know if I lost a game or whatever happened, make sure you're over there subscribing to the Vampire Chicken. In a day or two, I'm not sure what the schedule is. I'm posting daily videos over there. Make sure that you check it out, and you'll know what exactly happened and how I was able to finish and win this game. But with all of that, we're going to go over to Twitch, Jonathan, and he's going to be explaining to you this incredibly complicated opening. I hope that you do like it. I hope that it's something that you're interested in. I don't know if it's useful, but it's insanely complicated. And with that, let's get over there and let's get started with the video. All right, bye. Can I take one moment here and potentially make a YouTube video about how to play this? Because we just played this game, and I do just want to mention that there exists a really cool possibility in this opening. So it's the MacLeod attack, which is really weird, but it has this idea that you actually can transpose into a bunch of other gambits that you guys might be interested in. And the critical thing here, you're going to notice every single move, people are making mistakes. Like even here on this position, you can see what's critical is d5 and knight to f6. These are obviously the critical ways you want to attack this e-pawn. Everybody today, for some reason, has been playing f5. Now I know I'm going to take that next time. I'm going to be feeling great about life. But the thing is, everybody here, at least on Lichess, you can see like a huge percentage of people, 32% of people are playing here, which allows you to play pawn to d4. Now, I'm not going to get sidelined by this, but I do just want to point out that after this, obviously, you can recapture if you don't like losing your pawns. But if you like the Goring Gambit slash Danish Gambit, you can play for a line like this where you develop all of your stuff, and you can sack all your pawns, and you can play one of these lines where it's like minus 0.6, and Lichess will say this is the Goring Gambit. I guess it's not the Danish Gambit because the knight is already out on c6, but this is something cool that you can play if your opponents play this move. But let's focus on d5 because that's what most people play when they're trying to refute it. Now you can play queen to a4, and this is actually a transposition to the Ponziani if your opponents play like this. You can imagine that if the game had started a little bit different and went like this with knight f3, knight to c6, put in this position. Now after c3, d5, queen to a5 is a pretty common move. This is played in quite a lot of games, so this is kind of a well-known idea. And the beauty of it, let's just get there by MacLeod move order, is that you can get it via here. Now most people are playing this move, but a lot of people will transpose into it, and here you get a situation where most people mess this up with the black pieces. For whatever reason, a huge percentage, and I've had this even against like strong players now, they play d takes e4, which basically loses a pawn. Because now you can just take this, and if they play here, also notice that like this is not particularly good. You can't take back with a queen because then there's this. This is not a particularly good line for black either. You're going to be playing here. You're going to be playing d5. Sometimes if this guy gets here, you have moves. You might want to castle first, but you're going to have moves like potentially here. Now, I'm getting interrupted. Who is it? Not a swat. It was an adorable child. It was a 7-year-old girl coming just to say hi. She just wanted to make sure I was okay. All right. She's the one upstairs playing. She had to come make sure dad was doing okay. But something like this is actually very good for white. So instead, for whatever reason, people go here because that looks like it defends everything. But now you win a pawn. Very exciting. That's all I want to say about this line. Now, the cool line is in this variation after queen to a5 when they play bishop to d7. Now, the cool line is what exactly happened in my opponent's game. I played queen to b3, attacking all of these things, and he went here to protect these pawns. And this is where I'm going to show you the most complicated thing, and I'm going to test your chess intellect, which is something that I've already done with several expert level players at the chess club. So and then we're going to test you. And anyways, I showed 3 people at the chess club, all of them expert level. One of them might have been a master, but very strong players, and none of them could solve this impossible challenge. But before that, let me just treat you to yet again one more little trap that occurs after d takes e4. So if the opponent takes here, most players with the white pieces are taking here, which is not correct because I think it's just knight to c6 and like black is doing well. Okay, no big deal. Instead, you should play bishop to c4, and you should go after this f-pawn. Now, you will never be able to play this as black. You will never be able to play this as black. You will all mess up this position because this is a very, very tough position to find the right move here for black, even though it looks like it's probably obvious. Like you should take this queen and move somewhere where it protects this f-pawn. Wrong. If you ask the stockfish, you should not do that at all. You should just totally give up this pawn. If you play knight to h6, I imagine at some point, like I have to kind of play d4 strategically at some point in order to be able to get this bishop out and take this thing. Computer says even stronger is d3, directly attacking this pawn, threatening this thing, which is the defender of here, but it's somehow remotely playable for black. But instead, Stockfish says, just develop these things to like somewhere. Just develop your stuff and just give up, like however you want to do it. Just give up this guy and then argue that material is now equal and white has a little bit of a hard time playing this, although, you know, I don't know. Doesn't seem like something a normal human would do. I would expect a human would go here, but now you're just dead lost. Or maybe you'd go to f6. Somehow you'd use this queen to defend your pawn. That seems like the most logical thing. But now after we take here, black does not have this resource of bishop to c6, which is what actually everybody is playing. And this is what black wants to do, defend the rook. But then, boom, you get hit with this shot. And after this move, boom, you get hit with one of these. And either you go here and you lose your queen, or you go here and you get checkmated. So that's a fun little trap that you might want to know about. But if your opponents do play as my opponent did, there is a new line that you can play here. And now for the very first time, I just became the very first human being on the planet to play pawn to d4, and I had a bunch of prep. Now this has been played 31 times, but no one's ever played this, the top engine move, probably because nobody actually prepares this, but you can get to this position. So I was ready, and I hit him with pawn to d4. And everybody that I've tested so far has come up with this, but then instead of knight to f6, which is what was played in the game, and I played e5 and I got a good position, instead of that, everybody that I showed this to came up with d takes e4 in this exact position. And this is where I believe, even though the computer says that this is 0.0, there's like 6 or 7 only moves that black needs to find in order to be able to survive this. And I showed this to 3 strong players, around 2,000 to 2,200 rated players. I showed it to 3 different people, and everybody messed up. And it's I expected that because it's very difficult. So the first move for white, very easy. Very easy, bishop to c4, and you attack this guy. I allow you to see the database, and I challenge you to try to tell me what the best move here is for black, or let me know what you guys would play. It would actually be kind of cool to hear what a variety of different people would try to do on every single move as we go through this exercise. f6 not only blunders a knight, not only allows this check, But there's this funny grandmaster, his name's Ben Feingold, he told me that's illegal. So some people are just going here. That would allow me to take on f7, which maybe you're doing on purpose. You know that there's something tricky here, so you're allowing me to do this. Other people are playing h6. You guys are just letting me take. Everybody is just letting me take this f-pawn. That's crazy. So queen e7, this looks like this is definitely the ortho-schnapp move. And in fact, this actually is the best move. But let me explain queen to d7, which is actually the most played move. And I think one person actually did. I have actually had this in a game, at least one game. But this is already insanely winning. Game just got spoiled. Also, did you know, bonus point, you can play this from the French. You can get to this position via the French, as I did in this one game against the 2400. You can play the French, but now, in this position, instead of taking right away, which is normal, instead of playing the ortho-schnapp, you can play queen to a4. You give this check, and if they block with the bishop, look, we got the position. We got to the same position. So I got here via the French move order. I did have an opponent play this. I played pawn to d5. This is the problem with this, and now black is losing material. The bishop has to move away, but then the b-pawn's no longer protected, and I'm going to be winning the rook, and my opponent resigned, and I won the game in 9 moves. So that's why you cannot play queen to d7, even though for whatever reason that's like the most popular thing that anybody's ever played. So instead, you do need to play here. Now, one person I challenged, I think played b6, sensing that no, not in this position. It must be in a future position. Because here, b6, I'm attacking the f-pawn. Ignore that. But some people had this idea, which is never the right idea either. But instead, it is queen to e7. And if you have any familiarity with the ortho-schnapp gambit, whenever this unusual alignment occurs, black is trying to play queen to b4 and trade the queens. So if you know that and understand that, it's easy to find knight to c3. And now again, we are getting ready to play pawn to d5. Now we couldn't do pawn to d5 here because black is able to get rid of these queens and then it's just not as powerful. So you play knight to c3 first. Then go ahead, I dare you, I double dare you. Play the best move here. So that's, I forget how many, we're up to at least one totally forced move. You ran into a fan at Dunkin' Donuts, tell him I said hi. But go ahead. Go ahead, I dare you. Tell me what you think the best move is here. This one is, I believe, very tricky. E3, I have not considered, but it looks interesting because you are attacking this G pawn. Maybe I'm going to ask the computer. This is interesting, but it's not right. I'm wondering if it's... No, what is the idea? Maybe I play d5. I bet d5 is the threat. I bet you it's d5. I wanted to play knight f3 with the idea that I could take here and then do this. I wasn't sure if you just took here right away what was happening, but maybe that's fine. d5 also is good. Everything is good. Even allowing you to take this is good somehow. Bishop d5. Look at that. It's that same idea of using the bishop to defend the rook, but this time it's from really far away. That's kind of a cool idea. I like bishop takes e3 with the idea of playing bishop to d5. So somehow that's not it, although that looked like a pretty cool idea. I will say we got some good guesses in here. Queen to b4 has been guessed, a couple e3s, some a5s. I will say the top move, which is played 44% of the time, is here, which loses. So that's a bad move. If the bishop does move away, you can take this pawn. And if now you throw a move like b5 in, you can just take this. And if they grab here, you sneak in and you're going to be winning material anyway. So the most played move is just wrong. And the other thing, this is where I think somebody played this. But now just normal developing moves, and white is like crushing it. I think you can just play here, you can get castled, and then you can work on like pushing this pawn. And even if you don't do that and you just play like normal and you just develop and castle, like white can for some reason do whatever they want, and it becomes very difficult for black to castle. I don't want to dive too deep into the analysis, but that is something that is happening. Now the best move here, I don't think anyone said it. This one is very tough, and this is the first of a couple very, very tough moves. Now I will hint that I am threatening to play d5. And it's very hard to stop. Like knight f6 doesn't stop me from playing d5. And moving the b pawn just isn't really good either. So what are you going to do? People are saying queen to b4, which gives up this pawn. This is very bad. You've lost a piece. and you've lost the right to castle. This looks very bad. So queen to b4 here does not work. Because I have this battery, you need to stay connected to the f-pawn. The move, and you might know this if you've ever tried to refute the Ortho-Schnapp Gambit. I'm going to have to tell you. You know what? I'm going to wait. Nah, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to tell you. The move is anticipating that I'm about to play knight to d5 and playing this move, knight to d7. There it is. Quays coming in with the right answer. Knight to d7 with the idea that if I play d5, you can play here. In this way, black will be able to escape. But here's the interesting thing. Even in this position, you look at it, it's like equal whatever. Now, if you get this position, what you should do with white is like develop, just do like normal developing moves. Figure out, get castled, whatever. This is equal. This is totally fine. Like you could just totally play this. But we were wondering, it was a bunch of guys hanging out, analyzing a little chess. You know how it is. We were wondering, why not pawn to d5? And I will tell you that this is like a little bit worse. I can spoil this move. It's a little bit better for black, okay? It's probably -1. That's probably pretty fair. Somewhere about -1. But if you play d5, yet again, black is forced to find another series of incredible moves, which I think nobody will actually be able to do. So you can take this risk and play from this position. Or, again, if you just want to be equal, just start developing your pieces and get castled. That's how you should play chess. But d5, I challenge you. Now, we know that the idea is to play knight to c5, attacking the queen. Queen to c2 is probably the most human move. I think computer wants queen to d1. But you know what? Whatever. Queen to c2. Let's see if you can find it. And it looks like this has been played once in the human game. And I believe knight to d3 actually is the best move. Knight d3. Very strong move. If you decide to move the bishop back right away, I can actually block things that are going on the e-file. So that's not a real problem. So you have to go here. I'll show you with the engine at the very end how forced all of these moves are. And now I'm going to play king to f1. I move over. Guess what? Your bishop is attacked. Also, I'm maybe winning this pawn back. Also, who knows what else I might be up to. So again, I challenge the audience as I take a little drink here. Queen to f6 being suggested. Looks like this does threaten a checkmate. It does not threaten a checkmate. I take it all back. Your thing's hanging. If you play queen to f6, this is protected by my queen, and your bishop is hanging. Fact check. I can take this. Maybe there's better, but I can take this. I will also mention that in human practice, there was one game that went knight to b4, but this is not the right move. And in that game, it went queen to e2, which is good for white, but queen to b3 is even stronger. And something like this is just winning. You can play this move, pawn to b5. And I think even here, it gets like complicated. There was some sort of crazy stuff here. What did I look at here? I don't know. Computer now is just saying, yeah, just take this thing, and you're like totally winning. I think there's even some fun lines to explore there, but to not get too off topic, what is the move here? And I think it is very, very difficult. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And somehow, you need to like save this bishop and maybe not lose your pawn. It's like impossible. If you castle, your bishop's hanging. I'm taking your bishop. And I'm winning. I think I'm going to have to spoil it because I don't think that it's easy to find. And if these are the kinds of moves that your opponent needs to play, this is obviously something incredibly good for like blitz or whatever, even if you're bad. It is not g5, although g5 is always like an idea whenever you have this bishop out on f4. Imagine in a totally different position where this knight's not here. Something totally different's happening. But it's not g5. I don't even understand what g5 does. Your bishop is hanging. Let me remind you, your bishop is hanging. Knight takes c1 doesn't seem... So first of all, if you do take, in this position, this knight, I don't have to take back right away. Again, your bishop is hanging. Let me just remind you, your bishop is hanging. So I play king to f1. And we got the move. Queen to b4. I believe this is the move. I'm actually going to fact check because I want to make sure I got it right. Queen to b4. And look at this. The advantage grows and grows because we haven't been playing particularly well as white. We've been maximizing weirdness. Now, in this position, You ready for this? You've just attacked my bishop, so you've made a counterattack. So if I take you, you take my bishop. Okay. I play pawn to b3. Now, in this position, you have one move as black that is fine. You have one move that is good. I will again remind you that your bishop is hanging. And I will see how you deal with this. There are actually two ways. One is like an actual advantage for black, and one is like fine but hilarious. b5. Okay, chat has found it. This is the correct idea in this position. I will also let you know that a completely fine response would, of course, be to play bishop to a4. Now, this is the kind of move some opponents might be able to find. Bishop to a4, most natural move you've ever seen in your life, with the obvious idea that if I take this, this bishop is hanging. And if I take here, it's even worse. Ow, that's checkmate. So I will tell you, this move is fine. You can play bishop to a5. But even stronger, we can verify this. b5 advantage, bishop a4. Today, b5 doesn't look as good as it did yesterday. But b5 is much more natural, obviously. I just wanted to point out bishop to a4 just to, I don't know, inspire some creativity. Now, your bishop is attacked, my bishop is attacked. So you're thinking like, yeah, like this is all going to happen. You would be so wrong. I play bishop to d2. Okay? Eyeing your queen. Go ahead, figure that out. It continues. It's never going to end. Go ahead, play another move. This is obviously insane. I mean, this is one of the most complicated lines I've seen, at least in recent memory. This is like an insanely complicated line. I don't know how useful it is, but it's a lot of fun. Bishop to b7. How could you? B takes c. B takes c. Thank you, thank you. Z Nation, my mortal enemy. Learning all my secrets. Queen c5. From here, I'm probably going to have to... I think at this point, black is on the verge of actually realizing the advantage. And I think you now just start trading everything. So let's actually use the engine for the rest of this. But it's b takes c4, only move. And then we'll go back and we'll count how many of these moves were only moves. But this is like the only move. Now, obviously, I'm taking here, attacking your queen. And now the queen can kind of go wherever. So this is not an only move. You can go to b6, b7, somewhere, whatever. This queen is going to go back. I'm going to take this. Then you're going to castle, or you're going to take this thing or whatever. And you're going to get some position like this, where probably I'm winning at least this pawn back at some point. Maybe not. Right now, material is equal, but the king is on f1, so this is not particularly good for white. And I'm just going to leave it here. We can keep going, and it's, let's attack your queen once just for fun and not try not to get checkmated in the future. But I don't know. Maybe that's something that's kind of interesting. But how many only moves is that in a row? Let's just count from this position after d4, after takes. Let's just see. So I think it starts. So here, we could say this is an only move, although this is whatever. Okay, that's 1. And then after this, that's 2. After this, that's 3. Only move that keeps the advantage. After this, that's 4. After this, again, this is the best move, but this leads to more complications. What is this, 5? Am I counting right? Somebody double count for me. This is 4. No, that's 6. Counting's hard. And after b3, 7. After this, 8. After this, not a forced move. 8 only moves in a row for black. At least 8. I might have not counted that right. But that is the most complicated opening in all of chess as far as I can tell. And if you have something else that you think is more complicated, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!